Yeah, you can. All right, good morning. We're back in session on State versus Ferriter. Let me have appearances, please.
On behalf of the state, Brianna Coakley.
On behalf of the state, Karen Black. On behalf of the defense, Priya Murad and Kuram Wahid, and Mr. Tim Ferriter is present.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're at the closing arguments have been concluded. We're at the stage where I need to read the final instruction and discharge the alternates at this point. Are all sides ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Mark, you may bring the jurors out. All rise.
Jury entering.
All right, everyone may be seated. All right, members of the jury, welcome back. Before we begin, let me just ask the same question I've asked most days since we started. Up to this point in time, has any member of the jury been exposed to any media, either by video, print, publication, blog, or any other type of news source? All right, let the record reflect that all jurors indicated nodding their heads no to the question. All right, so as I indicated yesterday, we've completed the evidence in the case. You've now heard the closing arguments and also my instructions on the law. You're going to be shortly retiring to the jury room to decide this case. Before you do so, however, I have a few last-minute instructions to read to you, so please listen carefully. In just a few minutes, you will be taken to the jury room by the court deputy. The first thing you should do is choose a foreperson who will preside over your deliberations. The foreperson should see to it that your discussions are carried on in an organized way and that everyone has a fair chance to be heard. It is also the foreperson's job to sign and date the verdict form when all of you have agreed on a verdict and to bring the verdict form back to the courtroom when you return. During deliberations, jurors must communicate about the case only with one another and only when all jurors are present in the jury room. If a juror goes to the restroom, for example, the deliberation should stop until the juror returns. You're not to communicate with any person outside the jury about this case. Until you've received a verdict, you must not talk, until you've reached a verdict, you must not talk about this case in person or through the telephone, writing, or electronic communication such as blog, Twitter, email, text, message, or any other means of electronic or other communication. So do not contact anyone to assist you during your deliberations. These communication rules apply until I discharge you at the end of the case. If you do become aware of any violation of these instructions or any other instruction I've given you during the course of this trial, you must tell me by giving a note to my courtroom deputy. Many of you may have cell phones, tablets, laptops, or other electronic devices here in the courtroom with you. As I indicated at the beginning, the rules do not allow you to bring your phones or any of those types of devices into the jury room with you during deliberation, so I will ask that you leave those devices with my courtroom deputy while you're deliberating. He will safeguard them and return them to your possession after the verdict is rendered. If you do need to communicate with me during your deliberations, please send a note to the courtroom deputy. If you voted, however, at that time, do not disclose the vote in the note. If you have a question, the procedure will be that I will talk with the attorneys before I answer, so it may take some time between the point where you submit the question and when I'm able to get back with you. During this time, please continue your deliberations while you wait for my answer. And I should let you know I will answer any questions, if I can, in writing or orally here in open court. Your questions are subject to the same rules of evidence that the attorney's questions are, so if there's a reason that I can't answer, I typically won't tell you the reason. I'll just say that we're unable to answer the question. But however, if I can't answer it, I will. During the trial, items were received in evidence as exhibits. You may examine whatever exhibits you think will help you in your deliberations. There was a number of videos, obviously, that were presented as evidence by both sides in this case. There will be a laptop provided in the jury room for you to play those videos should you wish. It's only to be used for that purpose. And if you need assistance in terms of operating and queuing up the video, I can have someone from IT assist you in how to do that. The paper exhibits that were received into evidence will also be sent into the jury room with you when you begin to deliberate, along with the thumb drives and the other evidence that's submitted. If you wish to see any or rehear any testimony that was received, that will need to be done out here, because we'll replay the audio of the testimony if you wish to hear the testimony. My point being, we can't do that while you're in the jury room. We'll have to bring you back out here to hear any testimony. In closing, let me remind you that it's important that you follow the law spelled out in these instructions in deciding your verdict. There are no other laws that apply to this case, and even if you do not like the laws that must be applied, you must use them. For more than 2 centuries, we've lived by the Constitution and the law, and as I said before, no juror has the right to violate these rules that we all share. Let me have counsel approach, please. Okay, so there is one video that was played in evidence on mute. So I won't be able to send that video back with you, but if you need to see that video again, that's something that'll have to be played out here so it can be played on mute. I just wanted to clarify that for you. All right, so the process when we select jurors is, in a case of this nature, the jury that ultimately decides the case is 6 jurors. But we always pick alternates during the process so that if something happens to any of the jurors that are selected, we have enough people to complete the process. As I indicated at the beginning, we have to finish once we start the proceedings. So we had 3 alternates in this case that were selected, and because of the order, at this time, Ms. Tuggle, Ms. DiDoranto, and Ms. Degler, it's my duty to go ahead and excuse you from further service in this matter. Because the order in which the selection occurred, you were, folks were selected as the alternates. So what that means for you is that you won't be able to go into the jury room for deliberations. However, you will be free to remain in the courtroom if you wish to hear what the ultimate verdict is, and you're also going to be free to leave if you wish. Once you're discharged and you leave the jury box, I also should tell you that you're relieved of the gag order that I've imposed upon you during the course of these proceedings, being at this point, once you're relieved, you can speak with anybody you want to speak with. However, it's your privilege not to speak with anybody if that is also your decision. And the only thing I would tell you when you're making that decision is please keep in mind that some people may ask to speak with you just out of curiosity, or others may be looking to find fault with what you've done. So just keep that in mind. The bottom line is ultimately up to you in making the decision. Before I let you go, I do want to thank you very much for your time and service in this matter. This was a lengthy trial, and I apologize in advance for blowing the estimated time of completion, but it does happen sometimes. But in any event, I hope it was a productive experience for you. And even though you won't participate in the deliberations, you've done everything that any juror could possibly do in a jury trial except the final act. So I used to joke with my jurors and say, I will see you in 6 months, but it normally takes a year or two before I see my jurors back. So with that, thank you very much for your service. And Mark will take care of, if you have anything in the jury room, he'll take you back to get it. And then at that point, I'll bring the rest of the jurors into the jury room. So Mark, why don't you take care of that, and then we'll have the rest of the folks. And then my deputy will be giving you a letter and a certificate, letter signed by me and a certificate from the Palm Beach County Bar. Everyone may be seated. He's taking it back. Okay, so before I let the jurors go into the jury room, Mark, I would like you to go ahead and take their lunch orders so that that's ready to go. I need to let you know that if your deliberations run through lunch hour, you will be. Yeah. All right, Mark, you may escort the jurors into the jury room, and he'll take your lunch orders for the lunch. What I wanted to let you know is you won't be permitted to leave for lunch while you're in deliberations. Other than that, the jurors may retire to the jury room for deliberations. All right, court is in recess.
I need them here for the jury's laptop. Is Deputy Boucher on 11A? I have, the jury. I do have one. On the laptop itself. Hold on one second. Can you hold for a second? It would be on the inside, yes. Mhm. Would we just do one, or is it the double? Oh, I'm in. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. Court is back in session. The Honorable Judge Howard Coates presiding.
All right, good morning. Everyone may be seated. All right, I'm advised that the jury has apparently had a piece of evidence reviewed that was not in evidence. I don't know how that happens, but it apparently was the arrest of the defendant. So let me hear from, excuse me, of the victim. So how did this happen?
I don't know, but they put into evidence, Your Honor ruled that they could just put in a picture of him or like a showing of what he looks like. And on the USB that they put into evidence is 2 files, one of which is labeled as Ronan's arrest. And then the other one also says he's going to be arrested, and they said that they published it. I don't think anybody even published this.
There's been no publishing of an exhibit where he was arrested. The victim?
What happened was we had a video when he was originally in school. We went sidebar. The court said we could play a trimmed version of it that just shows what he looked like at the time on that date.
That's right.
And we trimmed it. However, inadvertently, when that jump drive went into evidence, the longer version wasn't deleted out. So there was 2 files on there instead of just the one that says trimmed.
So how does that happen, Mr. Waheed? Isn't that on the defense? That was your exhibit. You were required and responsible for making sure that what was admitted in evidence and what was published was to be on that thumb drive. And now I'm hearing that they have seen something that was not admitted into evidence?
That is all correct, and it is our responsibility. I'll take responsibility for that. That was the day. That was the first day. It was a very, very busy day. As we moved through the day, it was completely inadvertent. I think I did the crosses for everybody that day, so I didn't really look at that evidence at the end of the day when we were trying to get it to Madam Clerk. So that was a mistake.
All right, Ms. Coakley, what's the state's?
I think there needs to be an instruction to the jury to disregard it, and it also is factually inaccurate what they had it characterized as, because he wasn't arrested. He was just detained and never arrested. So to indicate that he was, like, there was just police procedure that he was detained for a moment and put in cuffs. There was no arrest here. So to indicate that he committed some type of crime for which he was arrested now, based on how they have labeled this, which they provided to the jury, is really problematic. And, you know, they had to play it without any sound. I had to play a video without any sound based on the court's ruling, and I advised the court that, and we didn't send that back.
Well, to say that I'm displeased with this development would be a massive understatement. This trial is, we're in the 9th day. I rely on the attorneys to make sure that the evidence they submit, and based on my rulings, properly reflects what my rulings are, and that the jury sees only what has been admitted into evidence. Let me hear your position, Mr. Waheed, on the state's request for limiting instruction. I assume it's going to be something to the effect that, well, one, the exhibit's got to be corrected. The proper file has to be put on the thumb drive. Secondly, it would be an instruction that, to the extent that they have seen documents or videos that were not received properly into evidence, they're to disregard that. And also, your concern is about the nomenclature of the file name, right?
Like a factual stipulation that he was not arrested, it was just police procedure for a runaway.
Okay. Your response, Mr. Waheed?
Just to be clear, the right evidence is on the thumb drive. It's just that the untrimmed version was still left on it. So I just wanted.
Well, how can you say that? If you say the right evidence is on the thumb drive, and now I'm dealing with a situation where the jury's reviewed something that they were not supposed to have reviewed, which was not in evidence, those two things don't mesh with me. I mean, either the pared down video is on it, or an improper video that includes something more is on, right?
They're both on it. That's my point. That's all I'm trying to just say. So I agree with the state that the longer version needs to be deleted. I also agree with the state that my recollection is the court's ruling was to play it without audio. So it would be something that doesn't go back to the jury, that they would have to play out here without audio, just like one of the state exhibits. I also agree on a limiting instruction.
Okay. All right. So, Mark, I want you to retrieve the thumb drive that they were reviewing.
It has it.
Oh, you already have it?
Yeah, and the state's also asking for a factual stipulation, because it creates, what is on there, what they've seen is him getting handcuffed and led to a police car. And so, and it's labeled as Roman's arrest. which is factually false. He was detained because he ran away.
Well, I thought that I heard Mr. Wahid not object to my limiting instruction where I would advise the jury that the victim was not arrested. He was just simply detained as part of the normal practice in dealing with runaways.
That's correct.
All right. You can go ahead and bring them out.
Give me a moment, Judge. We're just going to fix this.
Okay. Well, that doesn't need to wait. You can do that and not take up the time of the jury on that.
Here.
And we are waiting for the queuing up of the replay of Fiona Ferriter's testimony. Okay. All right, you may bring them out.
Thank you for the opportunity. I didn't look for the additional USBs. I had a chance to do that at the defense sent back. I did look through the drive that they entered in this morning.
Well, I presume that when the evidence is going back and the state and the defense are looking at that's all being done. Are you telling me that you haven't?
I looked at the items that were put in, but I didn't check every USB as it was.
Okay. All right.
Jury entering.
All right, everyone may be seated. All right, members of the jury, first order of business is that I did receive your request for the replay of the testimony of Fiona Ferriter. That is being queued up. It takes a while for our recording to get it queued up for proper replay to you, and so that's in the process. I don't expect it to be too much longer before that'll be queued up. The other thing is I'm advised that there was a video that was sent back to the jury room that was on one of the thumb drives that apparently was erroneously included on the thumb drive and should not have been something that the jury would have been permitted to view. So with respect to that particular video, I'm going to instruct you are to disregard it and not consider it at all in your deliberations. I'm also advised that the very file name of that particular file was erroneous, and to advise you it was erroneous in indicating an arrest. You need to know, and the parties have stipulated to the court or agreed that the court could provide this information, that the child victim was never arrested in this matter, that what you saw was merely a detention as part of the normal process for dealing with runaways. So again, to the extent that reviewing the file name and seeing arrest was reviewed by you, you are also to disregard that. In an abundance of caution, I'm going to have all the videos on the thumb drives brought back out here. Have counsel review them one last time to make sure there's nothing on these videos that shouldn't be properly reviewed by you at this point, so that we don't have this problem again. While we're getting the testimony of Fiona Ferriter queued up, you can continue your deliberations. Before I let the jury go, is there anything that either the state or the defense wishes me to instruct the jury on at this point? Okay. All right, so that concludes my instruction on this. When you get back there, Mark, just collect all the videos so we can bring them back out. As soon as I'm comfortable that everything is on those videos that you are permitted to see, we'll send them back to you, and then you can continue your review. Thank you, and you may return to the jury room. All right, everyone may be seated. I'm going to remain on the bench till we get these videos back, and I'm going to personally monitor that each thumb drive is being reviewed and that both sides are in agreement that what goes back is proper for the jury to review. And again, I note that this should have been done before it ever had gone back, but let's make sure we don't have this situation arise again. Dana, do you have an update as to when we expect the replay of Fiona Ferriter?
Oh, I would say maybe 10, 20 minutes. They said about 30 to 40, about 20 minutes ago.
Okay. So another 20 minutes.
10 10 to 20.
10 to 20, okay. And they're pulling the replay directly from courtroom 10G, right?
Yeah, they said they were working on it, so.
This is correct. It shouldn't go back with them though, because if they wish to see it, it has to be on mute.
Okay.
It was just a portion that we played.
Yeah, because she said it's 10.
Ms. Coakley, you may begin your convenience.
Let's hear it. Oh,
Now, tell us a little bit about.
Ms. Coakley, I have not heard her last two answers. Let's do a mic test on her.
I can't believe that that's from 10G and not 11A, because my voice is strong, which tells me it's from within here. We need to make sure that recording is taking the recording from 10G.
Yeah, but the judge just wants to verify the record. If what you're playing back is from 10G, or is that from 11A? Okay. 10G, because it's not that loud. No, well, like the judge is, but we can't.
It sounds like it's coming from 11A.
The judge is saying that it sounds like it's coming from 11A, where they couldn't hear. Okay. Thanks.
So what's the upshot?
But she's gonna try to straighten it out.
That was not 10G, what I just heard. That was 11A. And Mr. Wahid and Ms. Coakley, when you were in there in 11 or in 10G, both of you were able to hear her fine, correct?
Very good.
Yes.
And we both, when I was speaking, I was at the I was like at the podium, so it should have been.
Loud. It should have been loud in 10G.
Right.
I don't think what they just queued up was 10G.
I agree with you. That sounds like from in here. Your voice on that is really clear.
Yeah.
Ms. Coakley, you can't hear. When I was in the room, I could hear everything fine. Like, we didn't have any sense of the volume problem.
So at best, my voice should be a little bit lower because it's being piped into 10G, and everybody else's voices should be stronger. Danny, just make sure they're clear on the instruction, because it sounds to me like they're confused.
Okay, I'll follow that. I, just so you're aware, that we need the testimony from 10G, because that one was clearer, than 11A. That was, that's the volume, everything, okay. 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 Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thanks, Mike. She has IT there, she's IT there at her door. She said that, that was the testimony from 10G.
Recorded in 10G, not the testimony that was taken in 10G and recorded in 11A.
She said she understood what I was saying. So I think something with the Zoom, possibly, she was saying?
It should have zero effect because it's live testimony in 10G.
Okay.
Zoom should have zero effect on it. You're comfortable, they understand that we're looking for the recording of 10G, that recording for that courtroom, not the simultaneous recording in 11A at the same time.
I think so. I
Okay.
understand.
All right, so where are we with the review of the exhibits?
I'm just double checking the state stretch, so
Okay.
there's a few more of them, so I'm just trying.
Danny, can they just do a test of 10G? I mean, I know they have to go in and clean it, but just to do a sound check, you go into the 10G recording and just play it here so we can see if there's a difference without them doing the work they need to do, because I know they need to get it ready for queuing. I'm just concerned they're not working on the right recording.
Hi, the judge would like me to do a sound check of the 10G recording. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead and give us how old you are again. 17. Is
All right, that is acceptable, but I want to do a sound check and a video check with the jurors. Video's fine as far as distance. And if you have any problem with sound, raise your hand so I can order things for this file. All right, that's good, Ms. Cook, you may proceed.
All right, so let me.
I think you're a little soft-spoken, so because we're dealing with these mics, we're just going to try and you speak as loud as possible, if that's okay. Okay. So you said you're 17 years old? Correct. You're nervous about being here today? Yeah.
All right, that's much better than what I heard the first time around.
Is it kind of embarrassing to be here and have to talk about these things? A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
You're nervous.
Ms. Cook, I'm going to have your assistants make sure she does everything she can to project, because she has a very soft voice, and it's not coming. If I'm not hearing it, I know I'm hearing it not hearing it. So, Ms. Meredith, as best you can, make you have to feel like you're shouting. Make sure you project, okay? You understand that, ma'am?
Yeah, I understand.
That's the recording we need, because that's the loud one.
Go ahead, Ms. Cook.
When you are nervous, I notice you giggle a little bit. Is that a nervous tick that you have?
Yes.
I get nervous, so I do that.
I can hear her fine now.
Now,
Okay. So you're gonna call back when it's ready, or you're? Okay. Do you know about how long? Sure. right, thank you so much for your help. Okay, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, all right. But that was definitely the recording that,
She's saying it's the same thing.
I don't know, I could tell a difference in her voice. Big time. Did it sound like the same thing to you? It did not sound like, I agree.
Because your voice is lower.
Yeah. Do we recall how long Fiona Ferriter's testimony was? 2 hours?
The second day, Your Honor, that was one where, I think it was probably about an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Recording will be able to tell us when they start playing it, right?
Yeah, I'll ask
Yeah.
her when she comes.
Okay. All right, so I'll remain here. Still waiting on approval of the exhibits, and then it sounds like it's only 5 more minutes for the queuing.
There is one that should have been there, not like it was a duplicate, more or less.
It's one of the state videos.
That was 17, right?
17 had been one US, but we correct on it.
Okay.
It is duplicates, another one. I just didn't want to like go into
And just so everybody knows, I received the question from the jury, can we hear Fiona's testimony? This question will be made a part of the record.
Did you want us to make that a court exhibit or just put it in the file?
However you handle jury questions, if
Okay.
you handle it in that fashion. What do you normally do, just make it part of
I
the file?
usually just make it part of the
Yeah,
file.
that's all that needs to be done.
Hopefully you're ready to call your next witness.
Yeah, Your Honor, at this time, Steve would call Fiona Ferriter.
Okay, at this time I'm going to have the clerk inform the chief, if you could go ahead and administer the oath to Ms. Ferriter. All right. Ms. Coakley, you may continue your convenience.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please tell us how old and what grade you're in?
If I do, it's going to give feedback.
Tell us a little bit about.
Ms. Coakley, I have not heard her last few answers. Let's do a mic test on her.
They're ready, Judge.
Coakley, are you ready to call your next witness?
Yeah, Your Honor, at this time, Steve would call Fiona Ferriter.
Let me hear it just a little bit.
Okay, at this time I'm going to have the clerk inform the chief, if you could go ahead and administer the oath to Ms. Ferriter. All right. Ms. Coakley, you may continue your convenience.
I don't know what to say. What she played the second time was loud. I could hear Fiona's voice. All right. So we're going to work with what we have. I mean, if they're telling me they're getting the recording directly from 10G, I have to accept that. And so if it's queued up, ready to play, ask what is the length of it so we can go ahead and bring the jurors out.
She said 30 minutes.
That, it's got to be longer than that.
It also goes the next day.
Yeah.
Well, they cut out stuff, like objections and stuff, I think.
The testimony from the third is 30 minutes.
Then it goes on the 4th.
Okay. And then she said that she needs about 10 minutes after she plays 30 to prepare October the 4th.
Okay, so let's start with the,
About 1 hour.
all right, so let's start with the third, get that played, then get 10 minutes, and then they can set up the fourth.
Start with the 30. And then she would need 10 minutes.
I understand. All right, so let's, well, where are we with the exhibits? Because we have at least,
Ready, it just needs to move the card for connecting those two in there.
No, we'll stay. I think
Depends too, they just wanted to change the card. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What do we write on this defense to you?
Video of Laura, 13122.
You're gonna get the card back. It's just so that the jury knows that it exists.
So you're going to, the card will go back with them. Right, so the actual document is here.
Okay, so this is not going back, but the card, you want that card to go back. I got that.
We're not explaining this to you.
all right, we taken care of what we need to take care of with respect to the evidence. All right, Mark, you can take that evidence back into the jury room and then bring the jurors out for the replay of a portion of the Fiona testimony at this point. And just out of an abundance of caution, we're sure that the proper verdict form got sent back, right?
I didn't see the, I just.
Judge, I took the one from off your desk.
Well, I had two verdict forms on my,
This is
nope, it's the incorrect verdict form. It doesn't have the lesser for count 3. Come and take a look. This is the one that I'm told by the clerk they have. Come and take a look at this. That's,
I know what you're, I'll get the correct one. It doesn't have the whole language?
not as the lesser. Just take a quick look at that, Mr. Wahid.
That is the one.
Yeah. Well, that falls into the category I'm glad that I asked. All rise. All right, everyone may be seated. All right, so first order of business is we do have the testimony of Fiona Ferriter queued up that was held on October 3rd. Her testimony was over 2 days. Once you hear the October 3rd testimony, it'll take about another 10 minutes for the recording room to queue up October 4th, and then I'll bring you back out here for the remaining part of that. The other thing is I don't want to know anything about your deliberations or discussions at this point, but what I need to tell you is the verdict form you have in there needs to be destroyed. I need to send back another verdict form that is the proper verdict form for this case. So when I send that back, destroy the other one, throw it in the trash, or give it to my bailiff, and he can make sure that no one views it if you've written on it or anything. I don't want to know. But I am sending you back with a corrected verdict form, so you'll complete that as in your collective unanimous determination. You need to complete it. But at this point, I don't know anything about the discussions or deliberations. I'm just simply informing you that a corrected verdict form is going to be sent back to the jury room, and that'll be as soon as you go back. Okay, so we're at the point where I'm going to go ahead and instruct recording to begin the replay of the testimony of Fiona Ferriter. The first part is about 30 minutes, I'm told, and then the second part is about an hour. So it's about an hour and a half of testimony. All right, Madam Clerk, you can go ahead and begin with the replay. And I can't vouch up front for the audio quality. We've been trying to work through that and making sure we're getting a recording from 10G, but it's the best that we are told that they can do through recording at this point. So you may proceed, Dana. And are you getting feedback?
Hopefully you're ready to call your next witness.
Yeah, Your Honor, at this time, the state was called Fiona Ferriter.
Okay, at this time I'm going to have the clerk and corporate city chief, if you could go ahead and administer the oath to Ms. Ferriter.
I can increase the volume, but it runs the risk of feedback. So if I close
Ms. Clerk, you may begin your convenience.
Could you please tell us how old you are? I'm 17. And what grade are you currently in? 12. Now, tell us a little bit about...
Ms. Goldberg, I have not heard her last two answers. Let's do a mic test on her.
Go ahead and give us how old you are again.
17?
That is acceptable, but I want to just do a sound check and a video check from the jurors. Video is fine as far as distance. And if you have any problem with sound, raise your hand so I can move things as quickly as possible. All right, that's good. Ms. Goldberg, you may proceed.
Fiona, I think you're a little soft-spoken, so because we're dealing with these mics, we're just going to try and you speak as loud as possible, if that's okay.
Okay.
So you said you're 17 years old?
Correct.
You nervous about being here today?
Yeah.
Is this a topic that you like to talk about?
Nope.
No. Is it kind of embarrassing to be here and have to talk about these things?
A little bit, yeah.
When you're
Ms.
nervous...
Goldberg, I'm going to have your assistants make sure she does everything she can to project, because she has a very soft voice and it's not coming. If I'm not hearing it, I know my hearer's not hearing it. So, Ms. Meredith, as best you can, even if you have to feel like you're shouting, make sure you project, okay? You understand anything?
Yeah, I understand.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Goldberg.
When you are nervous, I noticed you giggled a little bit. Is that a nervous tick that you have?
Yes. I get nervous, so I do that a little. Yeah.
Now, we're here to talk, you know what we're here to talk about, more or less?
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about how your family was made up in January of 2022. So that's right when you moved back to Florida.
Okay.
Who was part of your family at that point?
So my parents, my sister, and my two brothers.
What were your parents' names?
Tim and Tracy.
And tell us about your siblings. What were their names?
Ronan and Noah and Pierce.
Okay. Who is the oldest sibling in your family?
I am the oldest.
Okay, who's second?
That would be Red.
Yeah, I think you were telling us about the makeup of your family in December of 2022. I asked you, you said you lived with your two parents. What were their names?
Timothy and Tracy.
Okay. And you said that you lived with 3 siblings. Tell me the 3 siblings' names.
Ronan, Nola, Pierce. Yeah, Ronan, Nola, and Pierce.
And you said that you were the oldest sibling. What's the next sibling in the age order?
That would be Ronan.
And then who comes next?
Nola.
And then who's the last?
Pierce.
How close in age are you to Ronan, approximately?
2 years?
Okay, so you're 2 years older?
Roughly.
Okay, so you're 17 now, almost 18?
Correct.
And so that he's about 15, just turning 16 approximately?
16 years, yes.
Yeah, he just turned 16?
Yes.
And how far away is between Ronan and Nola in age? If you don't know, that's okay.
I'm not entirely sure.
Are you guys kind of relatively close in age?
Yeah, we're all relatively close.
Within a year or 2 of each other?
Correct.
Were you close in grades in school?
Correct. Yes.
And how about Pierce? Is he close in age?
No.
Okay, how old is Pierce now? Approximately.
I want to guess 4.
Okay, so he's kind of, through much of this, was a smaller baby or a toddler.
Yes.
Okay, while you and your sister Nola and Ronan were much closer in age.
Yes, we were.
Okay. Were you originally born in the United States?
No.
Where were you born?
I was born in China.
Okay. How did you end up coming to the United States?
I was adopted.
Okay, and who were you adopted by?
Tim and Tracy.
Do you know how old you were when you were adopted?
No.
Were you a baby or a toddler?
I could walk, sort of, so maybe in between.
Okay, so a little though.
Yes.
Now, do you know whether or not your brother Ronan was born in the United States?
Yeah. No, he wasn't born in the United States.
Do you know where he was born?
Vietnam.
Was he also adopted?
Yes.
What about Nola? Was she adopted?
No.
And Pierce, was he adopted?
No.
Now, you said that in January in 2022, everyone lived together. And where did you live? What city did you live in?
We lived in Jupiter.
Is that Palm Beach County?
Yes.
Now, growing up in the time that you were living in Jupiter, maybe one before, who was kind of the rule maker for your parents?
Timothy, my dad.
Was Tracy involved in enforcing the rules or making the rules?
She helped support the rules.
Okay. But who was the one that dictated what the rules and what you had to follow?
Tim.
If you had a dispute or disagreement about a rule or whether or not it was fair, is that something that you could talk about with Tim?
Not exactly.
Okay. And why is that?
Because he would reason us out of it, or I just wouldn't be able to say anything.
Was he the disciplinarian in the house?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about, you said in January of 2022 you guys lived in Florida. When did you come to Florida?
We moved roughly in December. I'm sorry, the years are a little confusing.
So I think we said January of 2022 was when you were with your family, when you guys lived together as a family.
Correct.
Did you move that December right before?
Yeah, December previously.
Okay, so that would have been December of 2021?
Correct.
So the time frame that we're talking about, is that like 5 or 6 weeks
Roughly.
that you lived in that house in Jupiter?
Yes.
Okay. And you moved to Florida. Where did you move from?
We moved from Arizona.
How long had you been in Arizona at that point?
Approximately 5 years.
Prior to Arizona, where did you live?
Florida.
So this was your second time coming back to Jupiter, Florida?
Yes, within that time frame.
When you lived in Florida before, was that like elementary school age, much younger?
Yes, up until 5th grade.
Now, when you moved back to Jupiter, what neighborhood did you move into?
When we moved back,
Yeah, in
Egret Landing.
what type of house was that?
It was a small one-story house.
Okay, single family home?
Correct.
Okay. How many bedrooms did it have?
3.
Who had the bedrooms?
So the master bedroom were Tim and Tracy. Nola and I each had our own bedroom. And then, yeah, I guess if you want to count the one in the garage as a bedroom, then that's where, Pierce had his bedroom in the office. They made that into his own room.
Okay, and you said that there was, if I wanted to count something in the garage. What do you mean by that? What was in the garage?
They had a room built for Ronan.
Who had it built?
My parents.
Okay, so Tim and Tracy had that room specifically built into the garage?
Correct.
Okay. Is that room already there by the time you moved?
I don't remember.
Okay. But was it there at the very least shortly thereafter?
I saw it, at least.
And when we say that it's in the garage, was everyone else's room in the main house?
Correct, yes.
And Ronan was the only one that had to stay in the garage?
Yes.
Now, I want to show you what has already been marked as evidence and shown to the jury. There's some pictures of your home.
Okay.
And so I want to see if you recognize any of them. You mentioned that you had a bedroom. I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as evidence as State 7A and F. Just take a look at it and tell me if you recognize whose room that is.
Yeah, that's my room.
Okay. And now I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as States 5A through D. It's another bedroom in the home. What bedroom is that?
That would be Nola's.
And then I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as States 4A through D. You might even flip because it wants a close-up. It's fine to do that.
Yeah.
You recognize what room that is.
Yeah, so this one's Pierce's room.
And we see some mattresses on the floor there. Is that how it was when you lived there? Were there mattresses on the floor in Pierce's room, or was there just a crib in there?
There was a lot of things in there. I can't remember specifically.
Is that a place where, like, Ronan slept?
No.
Okay, so just Pierce slept in there by himself?
Yes.
Now I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as State 6. Tell me what that shows.
The bathroom?
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as evidence as State 9. What does that show?
That's the garage.
And in State 9, you said that there was a structure built that your parents specifically built in the garage. Can you see it in that picture?
Yes, it's behind the racks.
Okay. Is that white building?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about that white structure that's in the garage.
Yeah, that little white box in there.
Let's talk about it. Did that have any windows?
No.
Did it have a lock from the outside?
Yes.
Did it have any access from in the garage to a bathroom?
No.
Okay. And did it have lights inside of it?
I can't remember.
Now, is that the room that Ronan slept in?
Yes.
Is that room, other than just sleeping times, did he spend time or was he put in that room?
Yes.
Was Ronan allowed to be in the house by himself?
No.
Was he allowed to walk freely through the house?
No.
Was he allowed to do something like watch TV in the living room?
Not alone.
Were you allowed to do that?
Yes.
Was your sister Nola allowed to do that?
Yes.
What about snacks? Was there food freely available to Ronan in the kitchen?
No.
Would he be allowed to go and take a snack out of the fridge?
No.
What about get a drink of water if he was thirsty? Is that something he could be allowed
He could
to
get
do?
maybe water if someone watched him.
Only if someone watched him?
Yes.
And only if he's out of the room?
Yes.
Were you allowed to take a snack if you were hungry?
Yes.
Was your sister Nola allowed to get a snack if you were hungry?
Yes.
Were there times that you would receive special treats, like, desserts or snacks?
Correct. Yeah.
What would happen in those instances? Would they be shared with all of your siblings?
There were usually rewards, and usually Nola and I would receive them. It wasn't often that Ty would also receive them.
Right. Are there some times that once in a while he would receive a reward?
Very rarely.
But were there times where you and Nola were getting a reward and Ty was not included?
Yes.
Having special treats, snacks?
Yeah.
Are there times through the, in this household growing up, were you someone who was observant of how your parents treated your other siblings?
Yes.
Did you watch and listen to things that were happening
Yes.
throughout your childhood?
I did.
Are you an observant person?
I would consider myself to be.
Did you ever see Ty or Ronan get punished?
Yes.
Was the type of punishment that Ty or Ronan got the same type of punishment that you or Nola would get for the same type of conduct?
No.
How was it different?
It was either more extreme or something completely different than what we would receive.
Were you ever locked in your room or prevented from leaving?
No.
Did you ever have to go to the bathroom only in a bucket?
No.
Were you ever required to be alone in your room in the dark?
No.
Were you and Nola allowed to have phones?
Yes.
Were you allowed to play games on your devices?
Yes.
Was Kai allowed to play games?
No. Not unsupervised.
Was he allowed to have a device?
No.
Now, you said that you saw Ty, through your time in Florida, or Ronan, get punished. Did you ever see him get punished for little things?
Yes.
Like what?
For me, it'd be just not answering questions. Maybe he plays a little too rough with one of us, or he talks back.
When you say he wasn't answering questions, what do you mean?
Let's say he did something wrong and they asked him about it. He wouldn't say anything. He just wouldn't answer them.
And what would be the response to that?
If he didn't answer them to a certain point, he'd be sent to his room. Or if he did answer, he'd still be sent to his room.
And when he's sent to his room, is he then allowed to leave?
No.
Is he locked in there?
Yes, he did leave. I don't know if he was locked all the time, but I know he wasn't allowed to leave.
Did you see both Tim and Tracy force him into the room? Make him go into the room?
I've heard both of them tell him to go to his room.
And did you see both Tim and Tracy involved in the punishment and discipline?
Can you be more specific?
Well, there's some things that one person did or the other person did, but were they both?
They were both involved with the punishment.
Now, over time, growing up with your brother, did you notice him become less communicative?
Yes, he shut down.
Okay. Did you notice him over time, especially toward the end, become more withdrawn?
Yes.
Did he smile less?
Yes, definitely.
And that's something you noticed kind of as his sibling?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about, specifically right now, the time in Florida. What was your observation about kind of how often he was in the room?
How often he was in the room?
Yeah, did you see him around the house very often?
Not inside the house.
No.
More so outside.
Okay. Tell me about that. What would he be doing outside?
Yard work, moving the outdoor furniture.
So when he's outside, is it like that he has the opportunity to freely play?
No, it's not. It's not for entertainment.
Okay. What kind of yard work is he doing?
At the time we were moving in, so it was mostly moving supplies outside the house.
Okay. Was there some yard work or landscaping involving shelves that he was required to do?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that you were required to do?
No.
And did you see him doing that?
Yes, I did see him moving the shelves.
And you said that you would observe him outside. When he was told to go outside, did he have the free option of coming back into the house?
No.
How would that work?
So if he was put outside, one of them would know that he's outside. One of my parents would know he's outside, and then if he got done with work, he'd come and wait for them to let him back inside.
Okay, would he be allowed to just come back in?
Not unless someone was watching him.
Okay. And are there times when he would be locked out of being allowed back in the house?
Yes.
And then when he was let back in, would he then be able to relax around the house, or what would happen?
Not really. He'd either go to his room or just go somewhere to be monitored.
Okay. Now, in your house, did you eat meals with him regularly?
No.
Where would he be while you would be eating?
Most likely in his room.
And what about when you would get home from school? Would he be with you doing homework in the kitchen or the living room?
No, he did most of his homework in his room. I didn't see him very often.
You didn't see him very often out and around the house?
Around the house, yes.
Okay, so when you saw him, when he was home and you were home, for the most part, was he one of two places?
Yes.
And what are those two places?
Room or outside.
Were you allowed after school to come and go freely around the house?
Yes.
And your mom, was she around during those times of the day after school?
Yes.
She didn't work?
No.
Were there times that the defendant, Tim, in this case, was also around?
Yes.
In the house?
Yes.
Would he sometimes do stuff with either Pierce, you, or Nola? Like after school, would Tim or Tracy do things with you all after school occasionally?
Maybe eat meals. I can't think of.
Okay, but Ronan wasn't with you when that happened?
Not often.
Now, when you say not often, was there one or two times that he was out and allowed to eat meals?
He was sometimes. Sometimes he was.
Majority of the time he was there.
Not that enough that I can really recall.
Now, you, at that time, were you involved in any activities at school?
I was here in Florida. I was a part of the marching band and band in general.
Were there some times that you had football games or things that were related to the marching band?
Yes.
Sometimes on those occasions did your brother come to the event?
Not that I can recall, but
Where would he be during those?
if my parents were coming to the event, he might have been with them or he might have been at home.
Okay. And when he was left home alone, when your parents were at your event, was he allowed to be out freely in the house?
No.
So were there family events that you or Nola went to where your brother is left home alone at the house?
Yes.
Did you personally even get the opportunity to see him very often during those 6 weeks in Florida?
Very rarely, like passing outside maybe, or through the window.
Even when he was at home?
Yeah, so I would see him like maybe he's moving yard work, I'd see him through my window, or maybe he did briefly come in the house for food or whatnot.
Now, was there a time in Florida where your brother ran away?
Yes.
And do you remember that happening?
Yes.
Was it over a weekend?
I believe so.
Okay. And what did you end up staying at? What kind of happened when he was gone? Where were your parents?
So I was left home alone. I believe Tracy was with Nola at a softball tournament, and Tim was, as far as I know, not present in the house.
Okay, so he's out of town, maybe?
Yes.
And you said Tracy left.
Yes.
Where did she go?
I believe she went with Nola to a softball tournament.
Was that like in Jupiter, around Palm Beach County, or was it out of town?
I don't remember.
Okay. But were you home alone?
Yes.
While your brother was missing?
Yes.
Were you allowed to let him back in the house?
No.
If he came?
No.
Now, I want to talk for a second about another time frame. And Your Honor, now would be the appropriate time to read that instruction.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I have an instruction law that we read at this time. The evidence to be reviewed on FF and YF concerning other crimes, roles, or acts allegedly committed by the defendants will be considered by you for the limited purpose of proving motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, or corroborating the testimony of EM, and you shall consider it only as it relates to those issues. However, the defendant is not on trial for a crime, wrong, or act that is not included in the information. You cannot convict the defendant for an offense he is not charged with. Instead, he can only be convicted of the crime for which he is charged.
Now, I want to talk with you we talked about kind of the time frame in Florida. Prior to Florida, you said you lived in Arizona.
Correct.
Tell me about the house that you lived in Arizona. What city did you live in
We
Arizona?
lived in Tucson.
Okay. Tell me about the house you lived in.
It was a one-story house.
How many bedrooms
Yeah.
did it have? Tell me about that.
So there were 4 bedrooms. And
When you first lived there, Who were the bedrooms assigned to?
So when we first initially moved there, it was Ronan, Nola, and myself.
And then did your
And
parents
my
have a
parents,
separate
yeah, they had their
bedroom?
master's bedroom.
Okay. So you said your sister, your brother, and you each had an individual bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. And was your brother's bedroom inside the house?
We're talking about Ronan?
Ronan.
Yes.
Now, how old approximately are you when you kind of first moved to Arizona?
I just finished the 5th grade, so I don't know what the age frame is.
Okay, so you're in about the 5th grade?
Yes.
And Ronan is younger than you?
Yes.
So he's in the 3rd or 4th grade
Yes.
at that time?
Oh wait, no, moving?
When you first got to
Yes,
Arizona?
we had just, yes, sorry.
So is it right to say that he was probably in the 3rd or 4th grade
Roughly.
at that point, elementary school?
Yes.
Okay, and Nola also in elementary school?
Yes.
Now, at that point, you said that he had his own room.
Yes.
That room, was it like an ordinary, regular room, or was there anything different about it?
No, it was basically a mirror of Nola's room.
Okay. Could he go and come freely in that room?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, was there any kind of lock placed on that room?
There was a latch.
Tell me about that.
There was a little latch attached to the top of the door frame. It had a little pin keyhole thing.
So tell me, what does that mean for the person that's inside the room?
He couldn't come out.
Okay, so it could be latched from the outside?
Yes.
Did you see that there were times when he had a room in the house that it would be latched from the outside and he'd be locked in that room? Would he be locked in that room in Arizona?
Yes.
Did that room have a bathroom?
No.
Now, is there at some point a time where he no longer had a room in the house?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
When our youngest brother Pierce was born, they had a room built into the garage.
Okay. Tell me about the room that was built in the garage.
No windows. It had no windows. It had an AC unit, a bed, and sometimes a bucket, or sometimes his belongings were in there before they were taken out.
Tell me about that. Was there times, how would that happen?
So like about the items in his room being taken out. If he got in trouble, if something happened, they would get moved out all the way out of his room. Or if he had like decorations, when he would get upset, he would take them off the walls.
Right. And when you say they would take everything out of the room, what would be left in the room?
His bed and a small desk where he would do homework.
Now, you mentioned that the room was built into the garage. Was that house the same as the Florida house? Like, was it all on one level, or was it something different?
So the Arizona house?
The Arizona house.
It was all one floor. The garage just had steps going down to it, but it was all one level.
Now, that room in Arizona, did it have a bathroom attached to it?
The Ty's room?
Yeah.
No.
Did it have any windows?
No.
Did that room lock from the outside?
Yes.
Did that room have any kind of smell?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It did not smell good.
How come?
He had his bucket in there, which he would use to go to the bathroom. And sometimes if he didn't have the bucket in there, it would just be on the floor.
Now, were there times in Arizona, like in Florida, where your brother would be in that room for long periods of time?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It's roughly the same idea as the one here when we did it in Florida. He got in trouble, get sent down to his room, but it's more of getting sent down to, more often he was getting sent to the room.
And then how long would he be in the room for? Would it be long periods of time?
It would be long periods of time. I can't say off the top of my head how long.
Are we talking like all day?
Can I just say there were some days that I didn't really see him that often?
Yes. And so if you didn't see him that often, was he like not at the house, or where was he?
He was in his room or again outside.
So, was the situation in Arizona similar in that he spent a lot of time in the room by himself?
Yes.
If he wasn't in school, where was he most of the time?
Are we talking about in Arizona?
In Arizona.
In Arizona, outside doing yard work or in his room.
Now, we talked about in Florida, when he's outside doing yard work, he couldn't just come back in. Is that the same in Florida?
Yes.
What would happen? Where would he just stand outside, or how would that work?
Yeah, so if he was doing yard work and he finished, he'd come stand outside and just wait, or one of them would go meet him outside. By them, I mean my parents.
Okay. Was he allowed to just come back in himself?
No,
Would the door be locked?
I can't.
Okay, you don't know whether or not it was locked.
I don't
Okay,
know.
I don't want you to speculate. But was he allowed or freely able to come back in?
No, not without supervision.
Okay. Now, when he's outside, is he have under direct supervision there?
No, not all the time.
So he's just kind of out there
So-
by himself?
Yes.
And your parents, Tim and Tracy, are someplace else?
Yes.
Now, you said that was roughly around the time that your brother Pierce was born. Who ended up taking over your brother Ronan's room when Pierce was born?
Pierce took Ronan's room.
Okay, so that became the new baby's room.
Yes.
And you said that Pierce is now, how old did you think he was now? Around
4-ish, I want to say.
Okay. So, was it approximately how many years do you think was the special room in Arizona? Just an estimate.
Oh, like how?
How long before you moved to Florida was he kept in that room?
So the one in Arizona?
The one in
Sorry.
Arizona, before you came to Florida.
I'd say Pierce was roughly 2 when we got here, so maybe more than a year.
So approximately 2 years.
Roughly.
Roughly.
That he's been in a room that's not in the main
before
house.
you came to Florida.
Yes.
Okay. And how old were you when you came to Florida?
So moving from Arizona to Florida.
How old were you?
So, oh wait, oh I'm sorry, I think I got confused. Wait.
It's okay, take your time.
Okay, so when we moved to Arizona, yeah, I had just finished the 5th grade, and then when we moved back, I was in the middle of my sophomore year.
Okay, so you were in high school.
Yes.
When you came back to Florida.
Yes.
And your brother was in middle school.
Yes.
Now, we talked a lot about your brother being in the room in Arizona. Were there times where you were concerned about whether or not your brother was getting food or being fed regularly?
Yes.
What would you do when that happened?
If I saw there was a plate for him, sometimes I'd be able to take it and just brought it down to him really quick. And otherwise, I really couldn't do anything.
And when you say you brought it down to him, where would you have to bring it down to?
To his room downstairs in the garage. This is Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so downstairs to his room there.
Are there times over the course of when you were living in Arizona that you ever saw your father, the defendant, be physically aggressive towards your brother?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
He would grab him by the back of the neck and just kind of haul him down to his room. That was the most common one that I saw.
Would you be able to see what was happening once they're down in the room?
Once they're in the room, no.
Would you be able to hear what is happening?
Yes.
Tell me what you heard.
I would hear him curse at him, yell at him.
And you saying I would hear him curse at him.
Sorry, I would hear Tim yell at Ronan.
And would you hear him curse at Ronan?
Yes.
Okay. What else would you hear?
I would hear the sound of contact, so like slapping or hitting or something. And then I'd also hear my brother scream.
Now, during these interactions, are they is Tim, the defendant in this case, like rationally explaining or calmly explaining the change in behavior or what your brother did wrong?
No.
Is he angry?
Yes.
How can you tell that? Like, what makes you think that he was angry?
It was really loud and it didn't really seem much like an explanation. It just felt like he was just shouting at him.
Was your brother in trouble with your parents or on punishment with your parents a lot of the time?
Yes.
Did it seem like he basically was always in trouble?
Yes.
Did it seem like even when he did things that were positive or appropriate, that was acknowledged?
Objection, speculation.
Based on what you saw? You just have to wait.
Objection, Objection,
I'm just telling the witness to wait before answering.
The objection was that the mic, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, that objection to overrule.
Did, based on what you saw, when your brother was acting in the way that your parents wanted or doing positive things, was that acknowledged?
Briefly.
Okay. Did it lead to like a change in his circumstances or improvement in how he was treated?
Briefly.
Okay. And when you say briefly, what do you mean by that?
It maybe went for a week or so, and then something else happened. He did something else. He got himself in trouble, and it would go back to the way it was.
Was the way that he got in trouble, to you, did it seem proportionate to what you knew he got in trouble for?
No.
Did it seem extreme?
Objection, relevance, her opinion.
Sorry, I didn't hear that objection.
It was relevant, Your Honor?
Relevance as to her opinion.
All right, overrule. Go ahead, Ms. Copeland.
You can answer that.
So can you repeat it?
Yeah. Did the punishment seem appropriate or proportional to
No.
what he was doing?
No. No.
Did the majority of the things that he was punished for, the minor types of things?
From what I saw, yes.
Now, I want to talk about how your perception of in both Florida and Arizona.
Okay.
Did you ever feel a time that you were unsafe around your brother?
Unsafe as to
Physical harm.
like him harming me?
Yeah.
No.
No. Did you at any time did he ever threaten you or anything like that?
No.
Did you ever see him intentionally cause physical harm to any of your siblings?
No.
Or your parents?
No.
That's all the questions I have.
All right.
All right, that concludes the. All right, so that concludes the October 3rd. The October 4th, is that recording telling us it's ready?
Yes. Okay, and that's 10 minutes. Okay. It stopped. Okay, thanks. Okay. She needs 10 minutes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, so be another 10 minutes before the remaining part of the testimony is queued up. Mark, you may return the jurors to the jury room. All right, and everyone may be seated. Ms. Coakley, do we have the correct verdict form?
If I printed it to 10B, if someone could let me in there, I could be able to get it.
Mark, can you let her in 10B to get the correct verdict form?
All right, so, Mr. White, are you ready for your cross-examination?
Yes, Judge, I am.
All right, so you may proceed, sir. Thank you.
Fiona, how are you?
I'm fine.
All right, let's go. Go with it.
Okay, it's
All right, you may bring the jurors out. And this is an hour. An hour. Okay.
an hour, you said, right? An hour. 47.
50 cents.
Jury in room.
Okay. All rise. All All right, everyone may be seated. All right, members of the jury, we have the October 4th testimony of Fiona Ferriter queued up. It's about 47 minutes of audio. So with that, Danny, you can go ahead and have recording begin playback.
All right, so, Mr. White, are you going to cross-examination?
Yes, Judge, I am.
All right, so you may proceed, sir. Thank you.
Fiona, how are you?
I'm fine.
You might be nervous. I'm just here to ask you some questions. If you don't understand anything I ask you, just say I didn't understand the question. Okay? Let's start with your brother's name. It's Rowan Ty Tan Ferriter, correct?
Yes.
So you've been calling him Ty, correct?
Yes.
So you want to call him Ty when we're talking about it?
Ronan is fine.
Ronan is fine? All right. So let's go back to Arizona. So some of what you talked about yesterday was Arizona, and some of it was Florida. Arizona, you were there from approximately what year to what year that you remember?
We left around 5th grade, and then we came back in the middle of my sophomore year, so whatever time period that was.
Okay. So you're in 5th grade, you think you were about 10?
Roughly.
Okay. So, and then in sophomore year, how old were you?
I can't. Yeah.
Okay. So the Arizona years were about 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you were there and then you came back to Florida, and the Florida time period was, you said, around mid-late December of 2021, and then in this case we're taking it up to the end of January of 2022. So in that time period, so that's about 6 weeks or so, correct?
Roughly.
Okay. So substantially more time in Arizona, obviously, than this last time in Florida.
Yes.
Let me ask you a little bit about your brother's medical situation. You never went to the many doctor visits that he went to, correct?
No.
But your parents went to those visits, correct?
I would assume yes.
You don't know if a parent went to a visit with a doctor?
I didn't really.
Okay. And you never obviously saw any of the medical reports that your parents saw, correct?
No.
Correct. Yesterday you said that your brother wasn't allowed to have certain snacks, correct?
Yes.
Right. And you're aware that he was, your parents were trying to curtail the sugary snacks in his diet, correct?
That's what they said.
Okay, so you're aware of that, right?
Yes.
All right. And you didn't go to any of the mental health visits that your brother went to. He was seeing a therapist. You didn't go to those, correct?
When was this?
This would have been in Arizona.
If he was going to a therapist, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, good. Which would also mean you weren't aware of anything the therapist would have conveyed to the family in terms of Rowan's condition.
No.
Okay. So let's go back to the food snacks. Yesterday you said he was essentially not allowed to have food and snacks, but the other food were, correct?
Yes.
Were you aware that, did you think your brother at any point looked malnourished or in any way like he was getting too thin or anything like that?
Yes.
And when did you convey that to anybody?
I never said anything.
All right. And are you said that about the snacks, that you were allowed to have snacks. Isn't it true you do not know if, when he was hungry, that he actually ate snacks or not? You don't know that.
Sorry. repeat that?
Sure. You're unaware that when Ronan was hungry, whether or not he actually ate a snack. You don't know that.
He wasn't allowed to get his own snacks.
Do you remember he spoke to somebody on the road back on February 1 of 2022 and directing Board of Counsel, page 55, line 8, as to snacks. Snacks, and your response was, I don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know, okay. And you don't know because you're not with Ronan all the time. You're not always watching him. You're at school. You have other things going on in your life, correct? Right. And you're a pretty smart child. You like reading a lot, correct?
Yes.
And you spend a lot of your time in your room reading by yourself, didn't you?
Yes.
Let me talk to you about lights and Ronan. You were aware that Ronan had not been sleeping yet, right?
Yes.
And you talked about a few things yesterday. Some of them were in Arizona, and some of them were in Arizona and Florida. You talked yesterday about your lack of contact with Ronan during those 6 weeks in Florida. Remember that?
Yes.
And the reality is you were pretty busy doing homework or at school or at your sister's games during that time, and you didn't really have any reason to go to Ronan's room, correct?
Yes.
And you spent a lot of your time in your own room reading, correct?
Yes.
You also talked yesterday about Ronan not going to your events, and it was that you must be talking about in Arizona, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to mark each one for identification. A little number. So the one I put a card on that says number 4, what is that picture of?
U of A bandit.
I'm sorry, say that again?
U of A bandit.
Okay. And the picture marked number 5, what is that a picture of?
A concert.
Okay. And the picture with the card number 6 on it, what is that a picture of?
Spelling.
Spelling. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And these are all events, your events, correct?
Yes.
Going to receive and accept defendant's exhibit 4 in evidence over objection by court is going to sustain the objection as to exhibits 5 and 6. However, the defense is not precluded from using those documents for purposes of refreshing recollection. Mr. Wright, you clear on the court's ruling at this point?
I am.
All right, you may proceed.
So, yeah, if you look at the picture where number 4 is, the card is number 4 there. What's that a picture of?
Arizona Band-Aid.
Okay, and do you
All
remember?
right, she needs to restate that. She needs to restate that answer because my hearers did not hear. So that's state the answer again.
As loud as you can speak, you know.
Arizona Band-Aid?
Better.
Arizona Band-Aid?
Yes. Band.
I'm gonna repeat the answer here every once in a while to make sure we agree or don't agree. So you just said Arizona Band-Aid.
Yes.
And in that picture is you with the awesome hat, correct?
Yes.
And you're holding an instrument.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And what's that instrument?
A flute?
A flute. So that's what you play?
Yes.
You still play the flute?
When I want to.
Okay. And next to you in that picture is whom?
Directly next to me is my brother.
Which brother?
Ronan.
Okay. And in front of him is whom?
Pierce.
And next to Ronan
Nola.
is Noah. So that's all your siblings in that picture, correct?
Yes.
So they did attend, and Ronan did attend that day, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I think the court already moved it into evidence, but it's my habit, so I'm moving 4 into evidence.
I've already received and accepted 4 in evidence and dealt with 5 and 6
Okay.
already. This objection is sustained, but you can use it for refreshing recollection. So, Madam Clerk, you consider the court's rulings on that? Okay, all right, good.
Show me 5. You recognize this picture?
Vaguely.
Okay. What do you remember it from?
It was a concert I did.
Okay. So you remember that you attended a concert and your brother Ronan was present, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then looking at 6, do you remember Ronan now attending your spelling bee? I'm just going to look at the picture though.
I am.
Okay. Who's that? I can't even see upside down.
It looks like Ronan.
So do you recall him? Sorry. Do you recall him attending your spelling bee?
Yes.
So yesterday you said that Ronan did not do his homework in the house, correct?
Not off. No. Yes.
Okay. And that would include in Arizona, correct?
Yes.
Showing you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 7. Do you recognize, what is that picture of?
Me doing my homework.
Okay. And how do you recognize that?
What do you mean?
You know it's you because it looks like you?
That's me.
Okay, I just wanted to make it sure. Okay, so that is a picture of you, and who else is in that picture?
There's Ronan in the background.
All right, and what's he doing?
Homework.
All right. At this point, Judge, I move defense 7 into evidence.
All right, so I've already heard sidebar arguments, so this court's going to receive and accept defendant's exhibit 7 in evidence over objections. You may continue, Ms. White.
Yes, Judge. Your name and clerk, do you have it right? So I don't lose track of that. Yesterday, you also said that Ronan was not allowed to attend family events. Do you recall saying that?
Not all the time.
All right. So he attended
Some family events.
some family events. Okay. And when he attended those family events, those would include trips outside when you know, to things that were like going to see like the Aerospace Museum, for example.
I don't recall the Aerospace Museum, but he would come sometimes.
Okay. I'm going to show you Defense 8. Do you know what that's a picture of?
I don't remember this.
Okay. So it's a who's in the picture? Anybody remember?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the people in the picture?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember where this picture was taken?
No.
All right. Do you recall taking family hikes, which included Roman?
Yes.
And to Sabino Canyon?
Yes.
Do you recall your family, including Roman, spending time at the Tucson Hotel JW Marriott pool?
No.
Showing you what's been marked for identification as Defense 10. Does that help refresh your recollection?
I don't remember this.
All right. Yesterday you said Ronan was not allowed to play outside, correct?
I believe I said not usually.
Okay. But you would be allowed to play outside, correct?
On occasion.
You would play outside in the backyard in Arizona, correct?
If you could call it a backyard.
All right, well, setting aside what you think of the backyard space.
Hold on a second, White. We're getting noise from outside that's interfering with our ability to hear us. Let that pass. Is trying. All right, I'm going to ask you to restate the last question and give the witness a chance to restate your answer.
My last question, Fiona, was whether you recall Ronan playing outside in the backyard in Arizona.
Yes.
And he would play at times with the other kids in your family, correct?
Yes.
you recall all of you kids playing at a friend's house swimming pool in Arizona?
That's too general.
Okay. Well, a swimming pool in Arizona that was not your home, but the home of a family friend.
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're asking.
Let me show you something and see if it helps you narrow down where I'm asking. Showing you what's been marked identification is defense 12. Do you recognize that location and the people in that picture?
I recognize my siblings, but I don't recognize the person.
You don't I have to get a clearer answer from you. I heard you say you recognize...
I recognize my siblings, but I don't recognize the person in the middle between my brother and my sister.
Okay. And your brother, that's Ronan, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you're at a swimming pool, correct?
Yes.
And your house didn't have a swimming pool, right?
Which one, in Arizona?
Yes.
It did have a swimming pool.
Okay. Is that your house in Arizona swimming pool?
No.
All right. So so is it fair to say that there were times where you all went out together, including going to friends' houses?
At times, yes.
Do you recall going to Mount Lemon in Arizona with your brother Ronan?
Yes.
And that was like a family vacation day, correct?
Yes.
Was Ronan, did your family celebrate Ronan's birthdays?
Yes.
And by celebrate, how would they do that? Bring out a cake, everyone, family sitting around the table, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Ronan was involved in martial arts, correct?
Yes.
And your parents put all the kids, other than Pierce, who was very small, in some activities, correct?
Yes.
And you were involved in track at some point at basic?
I did not go to basic.
Okay. Did you ever do track?
Yes.
All right. Was Ronan doing track with you?
Where?
When you were doing track?
I did track in 2 places, here and in Arizona.
All right. Let's talk about Arizona. Did Ronan do track in Arizona?
Yes.
I know you didn't like track, so you didn't do track as long, correct?
No. Yes, well, yes, I did.
I don't like running either. Okay, so let me ask you about chores. So yesterday, do you remember you saying that Roman would be outside moving shells?
Yes,
That's here in Florida, correct?
correct.
And that was this current time in Florida from end of December of 21 to the end of January of 22, correct?
Yes,
And the house your parents moved into in Jupiter had in front of it a tree with a bunch of shells around it, correct?
yes,
Right. And they didn't want the shells, so there was an effort to remove the shells slowly and get rid of them, correct?
yes,
And that's what you're talking about that Roman was working on, correct?
yes,
You had chores in the house too, didn't you?
yes,
And so did Nola.
yes,
And the types of chores that you and Nola had would be mostly inside the house cleaning up, that sort of thing, correct?
yes,
And the types of chores that your brother Ronan had were mostly outside things, right?
yes,
So Ronan had posters in his room at some point, correct?
yes.
In fact, your parents got those for him for Christmas, at one of the Christmases, correct?
I don't remember.
Going to see if I can refresh your recollection of the statement you made on February 1, 2022. Referring Court of Counsel to page 24, line 13. Read it yourself. When you're done reading that, let me know. So there were some posters that your parents got Ronan for Christmas, correct?
Yes,
And at some point, Ronan shredded all of these posters, didn't
he did.
he? Ronan used to also have a dresser in his room in Arizona, correct?
He did.
And this dresser was taken out of the room, correct?
Yes,
And it was because he was ripping his clothes up when he got upset, correct?
yes.
And the dresser was placed just outside of his room.
This is in Arizona, right?
Yes.
Yes,
So in late January of 22, Ronan had run away, correct?
yes,
He had run away at least 2 times before that, correct?
yes, but not here.
In Arizona?
Yes. I don't think it's, yeah, it is here.
And your parents at some point had a family meeting, I think it was when he first ran away, and asked you all how you felt about him running away, correct?
I don't remember.
Referring Court of Counsel to the statement of February 1st, 22, page 32, line 16 to the end of the page. I'm going to give you this. Read from this line to the end of the page and tell me when you're done.
Okay.
parents had a family meeting the first time they ran away, and they asked you all how you felt about it.
Yes.
And your position was that
As to the answer or to the question? All right, overrule as to the answer, and overrule as to the question as phrased. You may answer.
I'm going to ask this question.
The question was, what was her position?
No, yeah, the question was exactly what was your position about when they had those meetings, they asked you how you felt about it, what was your position? If you recall.
And let me be clear, I'm allowing her to state what her position was, not what she said. She could testify to what her position was, and then not be hearsay, so I'm going to allow that.
So can you repeat what you're asking?
Yes. So I'm going to go back to the previous question where I asked you, they had meetings, when you first ran away, they asked you all how you felt about it. What was your position on that?
On him running away?
On how you felt about that? How did you feel about that? Him running away, yes. First time.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
You want me to ask the question again, Kim?
no, I heard you, I'm just trying to think.
Can we hear that? All right, do you need to have a restate the question?
She said, I heard the question, I'm just trying. And she stopped.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
Trying to think.
Okay, all right, take your time.
I'm sorry. When he ran away, I wasn't really sure what to think. I was surprised, but also tried to understand why he would do it. I was worried, I guess, is one answer, is my answer. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question, though.
All right. I'm going to move on. Is it fair to say that when he would be getting in trouble back then, around the time frame of Arizona, that you didn't often know why he was getting in trouble?
I didn't know the specifics of why he got in trouble.
Did you think at any point that he was being wild or energetic, anything like that?
He was hyper.
Okay. Did you ever notice it was very difficult to calm him down once he got going?
Yes.
Did you ever see your parents try to make efforts to calm him down with words?
Yes.
Yesterday you said that Ronan got in trouble and things would be taken away from him.
Yes.
Well, there were times you got in trouble with your parents, correct?
Yes.
And they would take things away from you, correct?
Yes.
Like your electronics, right?
Yes.
And Ronan had taken away at some point?
Yes.
And you're aware Ronan would steal from inside the home?
Yes.
You're aware at some point he stole other people's credit cards?
Yes.
He, in fact, stole your money at one point?
Yes.
And you and your sister did not do these same types of things, correct?
No.
You're aware that Ronan was asked to write sentences at some point?
Yes.
And the sentence was usually, I will not steal, correct?
That's one of them.
Another one was, I will not lie.
Also another one.
You talked about the house in Tucson. The address was it 4245 East Havasu Road?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what the layout of that house was?
Yes.
I'm going to show you something to. So that house, there was, so you walk in the front entry and you're in the living room, correct?
Yes.
And then there's a dining room to your left, and a family room to your right, and the kitchen is at the back on the left.
Yes.
And then if you go to the left through a door, there's a bedroom, correct?
Yes.
Was that your bedroom? On the left?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then if you went opposite your bedroom down some stairs, you get to the garage, correct?
So the way that was situated is my bedroom, there's a laundry room, downstairs is the garage, and then there's a bathroom.
And the bathroom is in the hallway between the garage and your bedroom.
It's on the other end of my, so if I'm looking at my bedroom here, bathroom's on my right.
Okay. And the other 3 bedrooms were on the far opposite side of the house from your bedroom, correct?
Yes.
So you had to cross from your bedroom through the dining room, through the family room and living room, to the other 3 bedrooms on the other side of the house.
Yes.
And before Pierce was born, Ronan was in one of those rooms, correct?
Yes.
And so it's fair to say it was pretty far from your room in terms of the distance within that one house, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's fair to say that Ronan moved into a room in the garage around the time that Pierce was born, right?
Yes.
questions?
All right, thank you, Ms. White. Ms. Colgan, do you have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may begin.
So, Your Honor, I want to start with the layout of the house. When you talked about being able to hear some of the physical abuse that was happening,
Yes,
what room was Ronan in at that point?
in the garage.
Okay, so the location of your bedroom in the Arizona house as it related to the garage was close to the garage.
Yes,
And so you could hear the physical abuse when it was happening there.
yes,
And did you in fact see an instance where he was pressed up against a wall?
yes.
Okay. Were his feet on the ground when that happened?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did that incident scare you?
Yes.
What were you worried about?
That he was grabbing too tight, that something worse than just hurt might happen.
Okay, can you just say that a little louder?
Sorry, something worse would happen than just the grabbing.
Okay, worse like how?
Are you in the? All right, stop. Let's have her restate that answer so the jury can hear it.
So what were you worried worse would happen?
Overall,
I was worried that one day, that he might
overall,
Go ahead.
that he would accidentally kill my mother.
And is that based on the physical force that you saw?
Yes,
And the level of anger and aggression you saw the defendant do towards your brother?
yeah,
Is this emotional for you to talk about?
yeah.
How come?
I don't want to think about my brother not being here. It's not fair.
Now, on cross-examination, the defense asked you about were there times you think you stopped efforts to calm your brother down with words. What were those efforts like?
Angry. Stern, not comforting at all.
Okay. Is that how he was talked to and treated by both your parents, Tim and Tracy?
Objection, hearsay.
overall,
Yeah.
At the time that it was happening to you, did some of the, well, when you were living in the house, did you really understand whether or not what was happening to Ronan was wrong?
In Arizona,
Yeah, in Arizona?
I started having to.
Objection as to the foundation of the question.
overall,
Go ahead. Just make sure you speak loudly, please.
So can you repeat it?
Yeah, at the time when it was happening, all these things are happening to your brother in Arizona. Did you understand that what was happening was wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Did it kind of, your understanding of what was happening as you got older, did that evolve?
It changed, yes.
Okay, how did it change?
It became more clear that. I'm sorry.
Take your time.
It kind of coalesced into like actual understanding of what was going on, so I could identify a word to go with it.
Okay, what's that word?
Abuse.
Now, we talked on cross-examination a little bit about some of the things that your brother did do with the family. What's the time period total that you lived in Arizona?
I can't recall exactly, but I want to say like 5 years.
Okay, so over 5 or 6 years, were there times that he got to do stuff with your family?
Yes.
Over that 5 or 6 years, there were also times where he was left home alone in his room.
Yes.
And times when you guys would be gone for all day,
Yes.
and he would be left home alone in his room.
Yes.
So those pictures that you looked at, that the defense showed you, those are all events that he went to in Arizona, correct?
Yes.
And some of them are as long as 5 or 6 years ago.
Yes.
And you talked about, you saw that picture of him doing homework in the house with you. Is that in the house in Arizona?
Yes.
Is that a common occurrence?
Not all the time.
No. Was it rare for that type of thing to happen?
It would happen if someone had supervision, so I was there. I think, I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't, I'll just say it wasn't often.
So there were times, you're not saying that the stuff that happened was when he was in the room was every single day, every minute of the day.
No.
There were times when he was outside and allowed to play.
Yes.
But most of the time, where was he?
In his room or then outside.
Okay. Now, I want the defense asked you about, in Florida, were you reading in your room a lot?
Yes.
Okay. Do you still know what's going on in your house?
Vaguely, yes.
And you lived in the same house as your brother?
Yes.
And during the time in Florida, did you see him a lot?
Not often.
And is that because he's out of the house at school or something else?
Either at school or outside in the yard.
And then where's the only other place he was?
Room.
Now, you mentioned about how he was treated in Arizona. Was he treated the same way in Florida?
Objection. What rule is that?
Regarding work, yes. He was outside and in his room. A lot, roughly.
You talked about how when you observed your parents deal with him, that there was anger. Is that how, when they interacted with him, is that what you observed the situation in Florida as well?
Anger or frustration.
Okay. Was there yelling at him?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
All right, that concludes your testimony. You may step down. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the playback of the testimony of Fiona Ferriter. You may return to the jury room and continue your deliberations.
Court is back in session. The Honorable Judge Howard Coates presiding.
All right, good afternoon. Everyone may be seated. All right, court is back in session on State versus Ferriter. Let me have appearances, please.
On behalf of the state, Brianna Coakley. On behalf of the state, Karen Black. Priya Murad and Cora Walker on behalf of Tim Ferriter, who is present.
All right. The court has been advised that the jury has reached a verdict. Are all sides ready to proceed? All right, Mark, you may bring the jurors out. All rise.
Jury entering.
All right, everyone may be seated. All right, members of the jury, has the jury selected a foreperson? And that's you, Mr. Bushy? All right, Mr. Bushy, has the jury reached a verdict in this matter? No, you can just tell me yes or no as the jury reached a verdict. All right, if you could please hand the verdict to my courtroom deputy. All right. Madam Clerk, please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 15th Judicial Circuit, Criminal Division in and for Palm Beach County, Florida, case number 22 CF001136, BMB Division B. State of Florida versus Timothy Dunn Ferriter. Defendant. Verdict. We, the jury, find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged in the information. As to count 2, we find the defendant guilty of false imprisonment as charged in the information. As to count 3, we find the defendant guilty of neglect of a child as charged in the information. So we say all this 12th day of October 2023 in West Palm Beach, Florida, signed by the jury foreperson.
All right, does either side wish to have the jury polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, there's been a request to have the jury polled, and that simply means that each of you will be asked the question of whether the verdict is your verdict or not. If it is, you should only answer yes. If it is not, of course, you should answer no and nothing further. So, Madam Clerk, at this time, if you could please poll the jury.
Juror 1, were the verdicts as read your verdict? Yes. Juror 2, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror 3, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror 4, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror 5, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror 6, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time, this concludes your service to your community in this matter. I want to thank you for the time and commitment that you've made to this case. It went a lot longer than I'd originally estimated. But in any event, I watched all of you during the course of the trial. You did exactly what I had requested. You stayed focused and tuned into the evidence during all phases of the case. And I hope everyone has a much better appreciation of the great responsibility that comes with serving as a juror in our community. So with that, I do want to thank you. My bailiff will give you a letter of thanks from me. Also, a certificate of appreciation from the Palm Beach County Bar Association, and a short little survey that I'll just ask that you return it when you get some time. Other than that, I do wish the best to all of you, and with that, you're excused, and Mark, you may escort the jurors out. All right, everyone may be seated. All right, Ms. Coakley, anything that I need to address as far as adjudication in accordance with the verdict?
Your Honor, the state would he doesn't have a prior adjudication, but it is aggravated child abuse is a first-degree felony, so we'd request adjudication at this time. We'd also ask that he be remanded into custody at this time, pending sentencing.
Ms. Murad?
Your Honor, I would request that the court, as to him being remanded, he has been out of custody for 2 years without any issues or any violations of bond. If the court is inclined to remand him, my request is that the court put him on a monitor. He does have a place that he can live in Palm Beach County. He has no criminal record whatsoever, and he has no custody of any of the children.
Okay. All right, so the court, I'm going to adjudicate the defendant in accordance with the verdict: guilty of the charge of aggravated child abuse, guilty of the charge of false imprisonment, and guilty of neglect. At this time, I'm going to remand the defendant to the custody of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department. That's without prejudice for you to file any type of motion that you deem appropriate, Ms. Murad, for pretrial release or release during pending appeal. This ruling today is without prejudice for me to receive that and consider that at the appropriate time. Let me get an idea as to what the state is looking for in terms of a sentencing hearing.
I can do it as soon as the defense can be ready. He is entitled to a PSI. I don't know what the defense's position is as to that.
I will waive PSI, Your Honor. This is a sentencing that I should be able to get done relatively quickly. Should the court have time in 2 or 3 weeks?
I'll make whatever time that I have to expedite sentencing if that's what both sides request.
That's fine, Your Honor. I won't need more than 20 or 30 minutes for my presentation.
All right, so Ms. Murad,
I would need an hour to hour and a half.
So I'm going to set aside 2 hours for sentencing, and Kenthia, let's pick a date on an afternoon for 2-hour setting. No earlier than 3 weeks out. That should be enough time for you to do what you have to do, Ms. Murad, but no more than 5 weeks. So in that 2-week period there, let's pick a 2-hour setting.
Thursday, November 16th at 1:30.
All right, does that date work for everybody, November 16th for sentencing?
Yes.
For the state?
Your Honor, if I can just have 1 second to get to that. Yes, you said Thursday or a Monday?
Thursday, November 16th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at October. So sorry. Yes, that is fine with the state.
All right, so the sentencing in this matter is set for Thursday, November 16th at, what was the time, 2:30? 1:30, 2 hours reserved. All right, anything else that the court needs to address before we adjourn?
No, Your Honor, we are going to need to do a status. I know Ms. Marshall's in here. We're going to need to do a status check because I don't think we have a future date on Ms. Ferriter.
Could we do it the same day as the sentencing?
That'd be fine, if you're good with that.
I might reach out to Ms. Marshall about having something having it next week so we can get.
Whenever you want to come in will be fine with me. The morning docket, as you know, is generally pretty heavy, so one more hearing is not going to make a huge difference. Okay. All right, so then that concludes the court's business today. I do want to thank both sides for a professionally presented case. We had a couple hiccups here and there, but over the course of an 8-day trial, that's to be expected. But thanks to both sides for the commendable job that each of you did. All right, thank you. Remanded zero bond, but that's without prejudice for a subsequent motion be filed. And if you have the orders on adjudication, I'll go ahead and sign those now.
Yes, Judge, the state should be preparing those.
All right, so I'll remain here to sign the judgment and the adjudication. That'll be fine. So I'll remain on the bench because I have a long walk back to my courtroom, so it's better I just stay here. You can, thank you.
Thanks so much for
Shaquille, is this the original or a copy? See, this, yeah, if you could just make me a copy and you keep the original.
We didn't know if you'd like to see it after.
Yeah, yeah. Mark, have you got just a moment? All right, Ms. Coakley, I have the proposed judgment up here. This is the only document I need to sign today, correct?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Michelle.
All right, Madam Clerk, here's the judgment. All right, that concludes the court's work today. Court is in recess.